so excited to be joined by today's guest, starting pitcher in the Toronto Blue Jays organization, currently playing for the High A Vancouver Canadians, Juaron Watts-Brown. Welcome to the walk-off. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Juaron, before we even get into this, man, big congratulations to you. You just got called up to Vancouver a couple weeks ago. You're sitting at 85 Ks over 66 inning. Results and hard work paying off. Love to see it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Definitely excited to move up and continue the journey to try to get to the major leagues.
How's Vancouver?
It's good. I haven't been here too much. When I got here, we were here for 3 days and then we started our road trip. So I haven't really gotten, accustomed to
Settled in?
Vancouver yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like same thing, being back from All-Star break, we're here from Friday to Sunday and then we're back on the road again. So but from what I've seen, it's nice, the fans. I haven't seen that since college. So I'm excited to actually play at the Couve.
Is this your first experience with Canada?
Yes, it is.
Did you have your passport or was it kind of a mad dash?
No, I had my passport. It was a mad dash to get everything packed up and get ready for my flight the next day to get over here. But besides that, I had everything.
How did they let you know you were getting called up? Were you kind of expecting it or did it come out of left field?
You know, I guess I was expecting the sense of like I figured I was doing my thing. That I think I could have potentially earned it. And then I found out after a doubleheader against Lakeland, about 11 o'clock at night. They said, yeah, he gave me a spiel because me and the manager had kind of had some my last start because I was frustrated about how I was pitching. So I kind of like stood him up a little bit, just kind of handed him the rock instead of like shaking his hand and walking off. And he broke it down like, yeah, so the organization saw kind of how you acted, and we're gonna have to make some changes, and we're gonna send you to Vancouver. So he kind of made it sound like I was in trouble.
The old
But then he
misdirect.
told me
Yeah.
yeah. Then he told me I was going to Vancouver, and so I took a shuttle back to the field in Dunedin, and then packed all my stuff up, and then had a flight the next morning.
It happened that fast, eh? Like 24
Yeah,
hours.
yeah, yeah.
Unreal.
Not even 24 hours. It was I think like 8 or 9 hours, and that's that I had to turn around and get going.
What is
Yeah,
that
so it
like
was
to just tell me about the first time you pitched with the Canadians? Because I know, did you even have enough time to really process it? Or were you still just kind of like rolling with the punches at that time?
I would say I was it's just going with it. I had a couple days. I think I had like 3 or 4 days, and I started July 4th in Everett. Um, and it wasn't a great start. The first 3 innings were all right, and then they kind of got to me in the fourth. Started spraying the ball down the middle and got hit a little bit, but um, it was. I felt like it was normal. It wasn't like, oh my God, like I got called up, like this is the start. No, it was just another start, just with another team, and
Yeah.
kind of handled it the same. So I felt like I was prepared.
I know within an organization, it does kind of break down the barriers of the levels when you're going to spring training and stuff like that, and you see all the guys. Are there a bunch of guys on the Canadians that you were comfortable with and had already met and felt good around?
So I guess there was guys from my draft class, as well as people I've kind of met. The first spring training, in my experience and kind of the experience that I've had talking to the other guys that were drafted with me, you don't know a lot of people. Everybody else has been kind of there for a couple of years. So like staff, other players from other, like not even just Vancouver, but other levels. Like you don't know very many people. But now that it's been a half a year, it's gonna make it much easier to actually know people, and everybody's cool. You can talk to anybody, and I've gotten actually close with a couple of guys that I didn't know in spring training and leading up to coming up to Vancouver. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can imagine just the familiarity eventually just helps you settle down in general,
Mhm.
right? Like just knowing some of the staff and players
Yeah,
already. That's
yeah.
great. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, some of the staff, like, yeah, some of the trainers, and then I knew some like position players. Some guys had been in Dunedin for some rehab stuff, so knew them. So it wasn't like I went onto a squad. I don't even know how many people are on a team, maybe 28, I think. It wasn't
Mhm.
like I only knew like two people out of the whole. I knew about more than half, you know.
So, Jaron, for everyone listening who's a little less familiar, let's talk your repertoire a bit. I know that some say your slider is one of your best pitches, anyways, and I'm curious where you're at on it. How do you feel about your slider?
Mhm.
What are the pitches you're working with right now? Are you working on anything new? And
Mhm.
in your opinion, I mean, you have a ton of Ks. What's your out pitch?
I would say my best pitch right now is probably my slider, just because gets the most swings, the least amount of damage, and I'm in the zone with it the most. I think this year that my fastball has definitely gotten a lot more confidence from me as far as just being in the zone with it as compared to college. Um, because if I didn't have fastball command, that's when the outings kind of went bad, and that's kind of
Mhm.
how it's been the last two outings with Vancouver. The command hasn't been great, so I've had a decent amount of walks, but um, I would say that my fastball is can be my best pitch if I have command of it that day. Whether it's down or up in the zone. I throw four seam, slider, uh, knuckle curve ball, change up, and then a slow curve ball. Slow curve ball throw like 2 to 6 times a game. And OO counts.
Just to keep them on their toes a little, eh?
Yes, yes, just to drop in there, try to steal a strike. Especially since I'm only throwing it a couple times, they usually don't swing, and if they do, they're really out in front because it's 72 miles per hour as compared to everything else, 80 plus. So I think that the slider is the best pitch right now. Fastball has been the best pitch at times this year. Um, And then as far as pitches that I'm working on, there isn't anything. The slow curveball is kind of what I added probably about 2 months ago now. Um, the change I made with my changeup was throwing it a little bit slower. I used to throw it a little too firm. It was like 86 to 88 rather than now it's like 80 to 85, 84
Taking
ish.
a little velo
So
off of it, is that working for you?
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, most definitely because it everything was firm. Fastball was firm, slider was firm, curveball was firm. So just changing up the speeds, especially using it to lefties. I didn't use it very much. I just kind of every now and then flipped it in there, and it would be firm. So it'd be just essentially a slow fastball. If it didn't have the right movement plot, so slowing it down and using it more often to lefties has definitely benefited me.
So when you're not locating, and maybe you're still figuring this out, I mean, most pitchers, it's a constant battle. When you're not locating, how do you mentally deal with that? You know, because you're still trying to get outs. You still got to go through
Yeah.
the motions and attack hitters. What do you personally do when you aren't locating a certain pitch the way you want to?
Um, I would say I'm just trying to make pitch to pitch changes, Um, just something slight, not thinking about every little thing like, oh, I'm doing this, and that. Just something slight. Maybe just get my hand out sooner or change my target because, like you said, I'm still trying to get outs. I can't sit there like I am in a bullpen and try to
Yeah.
figure out every little
Throw your
thing. Okay,
arms
I'm
up
gonna
and be
try
like, we'll
throwing it
get him
here.
tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's just trying to make pitch to pitch changes. And competing because once I start getting frustrated or get pissed off and start thinking about a whole bunch of different things, that's when it can get worse. So
Mhm.
just trying to make small changes and just make a good pitch, getting out.
How much does your catcher play into when that situation is going down?
um Me and Brooks, we haven't worked too much together, but
Mhm.
I would say um that from what he's done when we're working right now is just something slight that he sees. Maybe takes a visit. Like my changeup, my last outing, the first couple innings wasn't great. I was pulling it and yanking it. So I think in like the third or the fourth inning, he came up and he said, "What I'm seeing is you're kind of pushing it. So try to reach out a little bit more." And then the next inning, I had a guy I threw two straight changeups, fouled it off, and then ended up striking him out on a slider. So I would say just as him and I work more together, it would be what he sees that like when I am going good, I'm not doing that when I'm not commanding the ball.
Yeah.
Um that's probably the biggest thing.
So we just watched this year's draft go down, and
Mhm.
as a fan, it's funny because you know what goes into it, but the more you hear about the behind the scenes stuff, you're like, oh yeah, this is like a real racket. And I know you got drafted in the third round last year, so you went through all of it, and that includes
Mhm.
the scouting in advance, both on and off the field, right? Like they're meeting
Mhm.
with you and your family and stuff like
Yep.
that. I'd
Yep.
love to hear what your experience was like, and even more so, when did teams start contacting you? And did anything surprise you about the draft process?
You know, it's funny. The draft is it's not all just I guess not for everybody. It's not all just oh my gosh, like this is the best thing ever. I actually had went to the draft last year, thinking I was going to go day one.
Mhm.
Um, so was sitting there waiting for my name to get called. Didn't end up getting called day one. So it was really disappointing that that I had ended up going to the draft and didn't get picked. So then we're sitting there, and then the next day. I didn't know the Blue Jays were taking me. And so we're watching the screen, and um, I get a text from somebody, "Congratulations, you got picked." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then I see that I got picked. So it was it was crazy, you know. Everybody, it's not.
Had the Blue Jays been in touch?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I had been talking to teams probably since my sophomore summer. Like they talked to you a little bit then going into the fall of your junior year. Maybe they talked to you a little bit your sophomore year. But I would say I started talking to them more in depth about things and doing like little questionnaires and stuff like that my sophomore summer, and then into the fall, and they do like interviews and stuff like that, and then after the season, they have the combine, so I had went to that and done interviews there, and I talked to the Blue Jays, and I guess you can say every team that I talked to, I thought they were interested, so I
Yeah.
guess I can't tell you which one was more interested than the other, but yeah, it was just crazy, because I figure I'm going day one, don't end up doing that, and then I'm not even sure who's going to pick me the next day. And the Blue Jays pick me, and I don't even know that they're going to do that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm grateful that they did. They have a lot of good people in the organization, and they've helped me tremendously. A lot of nice amenities too, so that also is nice.
Yeah.
Not having to go to an organization, that doesn't have a great PDC and stuff like that. And they treat us well, so I'm definitely grateful that they had picked me up.
It really is a fascinating process because as fans, sometimes you're just all you think is, "Oh my god, this guy's dreams were just made true." Which I mean,
Mhm.
obviously there's a huge aspect of
No,
that to it,
yes,
obviously,
yes,
right? And not to downplay the moment, but
yeah,
it's interesting even just talking with you here where it's like, yeah, there was some disappointment involved too. You don't know
yeah,
where you're going. It's kind of a roll
uh
of the dice. You're not even sure who's taking you. I mean, that is hilarious that you found
yes,
out about going to the Blue Jays from a buddy's text. Like, yeah,
yes,
that's
yes,
wild.
yeah.
So you get drafted, and then what's the first thing they do? Did they send you to the complex? What, like, all of a sudden you go from a college player to a professional baseball player?
Yeah, so went to the complex after I was drafted. And there was like this little draft camp. Ended up doing that like with the other kids that got drafted, obviously. Um, and then they had shut me and Landon Morotis down. from throwing. Um, so we were at the PDC from what it's July to October-ish. I think like early October I was is when I was I when I left. And so I was just there, just they were teaching me movements, like teaching movements that like before I could graduate to like, regular squat and stuff like that. We had started finally throwing a little bit in August, at the end of August. Me and Landon did and started throwing some live hitters. But it was definitely an adjustment in the sense of I was living in a hotel. I had never done that before, always
Yeah.
lived in a house or been in a hotel for a week with a teammate. And then gone back home. So that was probably the biggest adjustment, was just being in a hotel every single day, and then going to work. Like it's work
Yeah.
now, it's not just play baseball, it's work. So going there every morning, and doing my things there, working out, eating. They lay out what they think you need to do as far as like habits on a daily basis, diet, stuff like that. So um it was definitely an adjustment.
Was there some stuff that surprised you when you got into the system? Like, was there anything weird, or maybe weird's the wrong word, but like different that you hadn't
Just
really
different,
thought
yeah.
of? Yeah.
I guess I wouldn't say anything in particular. I would say everything's new at every program, right?
Yeah.
So like
Right.
I transferred from Long Beach State to Oklahoma State, and things were different from there to Oklahoma State. So it's like things were different, but that's just how it is, org to org or program to program in college. There wasn't anything that stood out like, wow, that's a little bit different. It's just probably just more advanced here. Being as it's a professional program, they probably have more money than a college does. They can do more things than a college does. So I feel like it was, if anything, it was just new and better things rather than it being weird.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about Oklahoma State. I'm always so fascinated by college sports because here in Canada, it's so different, man. It's not
Mhm.
even comparable. It's not really a viable route to
Yeah.
take if you're like an athlete. Your main goal is to get into an American college. So, tell me a little bit about that experience and just like the amount of people that you're playing in front of. I'm sure it must have
Mhm.
taken you aback at times.
Yeah, so Long Beach got a good crowd,
Yeah.
every weekend they'd get maybe 3,000, 4,000 people. Um, there was one crowd we played in front of my sophomore year at Long Beach that was 12,000 at Mississippi State. Um, so that's what I kind of expected going over to Oklahoma State, was the 12,000 around there. So transferring to Oklahoma State, Josh and Rob welcomed me in, and um, the crowd was awesome. Long Beach didn't have a football team, Oklahoma State did. So that was one thing that was much different, was that you could go to a football game in the fall with the buddies after practice or after our inner squad, and enjoy that time. But as far as the baseball side of it, it was super competitive. Everywhere we went, it was heckling fans, and just kind of a target on our back, because like Oklahoma State's a good program, and there's also other good programs in that conference. So it was it was fun. It
Yeah.
wasn't like it was like I dwindled behind the light. No, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed playing in front of a lot of people, especially like when we played OU, our stadium was filled.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool to play in front of a crowd like that. So yeah.
What is there any heckles that stand out in your mind? I always draw comparisons between comedians and baseball players because we're like the only professions out there where people can just get hammered and then yell shit at us. Is there anything that like in particular?
No, I can't say there's anything. I mean, they always have something funny to say.
Yeah,
Like they say something sly, and it's a little funny. I would say I remember more of what they say to other people, if I'm
right.
being honest. Like even this year, like in Dunedin, a fan had chirped Grant Rogers, a pitcher on Dunedin, and
Yeah.
I still remember exactly what he said. So I feel like I remember more
What
what
did
they
he
say to other
say?
people.
Can we
So Grant has long hair, and he had came out of the game, and the heckler yelled, "Can we bring out the long-haired hippie again?" So like like if you knew Grant and like you saw
Yeah.
his hair, it was a good term, you know. It was
Yeah.
pretty funny. So I yeah, I don't think there's very much that I can remember about myself. I mean, the normal stuff like figure it out if I'm not throwing a strike and stuff like that, but I don't remember anything specific.
So you've always been a high K guy. I mean, you were a bit of a strikeout machine at Oklahoma State. Are you thinking strikeouts when you get on the mound, or is it more just executing pitches? And if the result is K's, great. Or I guess what I'm asking is, how often do you get a
Yeah.
strikeout where
Yeah.
that is your sole goal?
I mean, I feel like a little bit of both, you know?
Okay.
Like I want to go out there and punch out 10 every day. Um I think that sometimes I want to punch out 10 so bad I'm not executing, so I don't punch out 10, you know?
Mm,
So yeah, I want to punch out 10, but when I'm executing, that's when I'm punching out 10. If I get to 0-2, I'm not thinking, "Oh yeah, this is a strikeout," you know? I'm thinking like I just need to execute this pitch. Um I would say the more I think about the execution and I'm actually executing my pitches, that's when the Ks start to rack up. Like I said, if my fastball command's really good, that's what helps out the most because I don't have to rely on off speed just landing a strike. I can use my fastball early in counts and get early contact or get early swings and misses, and then use my slider or my curveball to put it away. So, yeah, I love to K people. I wish I had more, but that comes from me not executing,
yeah.
and walking guys. So um, maybe try just not even thinking about the K's and just execute. But it's hard not to, you know.
It's a good feeling, right? Like
Yeah.
getting
Oh
a
yeah.
guy, yeah, swinging on a whiff, even. Like,
Uh-huh.
what's your favorite way of striking a guy out?
A lot of people. I don't know. I would say either. You know, I would say probably a swinging strikeout.
Yeah.
Whiff on a fastball up or an off speed down. Looking's always cool just because you don't see him very often just because so 2-1-2, 2-2. They're trying to protect. So
I
that's
can
cool,
imagine
but
if you freeze them on that slow curve or something, it's pretty
yep.
satisfying to just watch them like
Oh
buckle in
yeah.
and like, yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure because it's like they don't even know what to do. They just watch it fall in and they know it's a strike and they just walk away. That's probably the best feeling when they know it's a
Yeah.
strike rather than like a 50-50 ball. But yeah, I would say probably whiff like when you make someone sword or chase on a pitch that wasn't a strike.
Yeah.
It feels pretty good.
So curious what the experience was like to be wandering around that Dunedin clubhouse with possible Hall of Famer Joey Votto there with you.
Yeah,
It must have been pretty
yeah,
surreal at times.
yeah. I mean, it's as a kid, you don't you like you know you think about like playing with like big leaguers and like oh I'll play with this guy, play with this guy, and like I remember watching Joe Votto grow up because Brandon Phillips was on the Reds. Like I knew about
Yeah.
players on the Reds, and it was surreal. You know, you don't think about it in the moment like oh my god I'm sitting next to Joey Votto, but
Yeah.
like you leave the field or you talk to like a couple of my buddies, it's like, dude, Joey Votto is like playing with us. Like that was what first baseman for one of the games I pitched. Like that dude's a surefire Hall of Famer someday, and he's playing in Dunedin with me. So it's like it's kind of crazy how it worked out because like
Yeah.
he's much older than I am. He's been in the league for a long time, and he just happens to be playing first when I'm pitching. So it's like that part's probably the most surreal. You know, the day that I pitched and he was playing first, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just pick off every time. He's gonna get him out. I didn't end up doing that, but it was pretty cool for sure.
Yeah, I never even thought of that aspect, but of course, like most of the guys running around there, he's double their age. That's so
Yeah,
crazy that like,
yeah,
and even the way you put it, I love how you like you know visualize playing with those big leaguers, but you
hmm
never visualize it going to be in the Florida Coast League, right? Like you never
no,
visualize it
no.
at the yeah. So
Yeah.
crazy, man.
Yeah, and that's and like same thing like when Manoa was making his starts with the us and like stuff like that. It's like it's crazy because that guy like he was almost a Cy Young and he's pitching for us and he's like in the dugout with us talking to us. It's not like they're just these super beings that we never see, you know, or what it
Yeah.
feels like, you know, that we never see. We just watch on TV. So it's always pretty cool having a big leaguer around for sure.
So I know that This is probably an unfair question because I know you've only had a couple starts in Vancouver, but uh, from your limited time at high A, what's the biggest difference that you have noticed between this jump up in level between low and high A?
So for me, it is the zone. In Dunedin, I pitched on ABS. Um, every game I pitched this year has been on ABS, besides obviously when I got moved up. So I would say the zone, pitching on ABS all year, you get everything in the zone is a strike. Like if it touches the zone, it's a strike. If there's a ball in there, like sometimes this is where the ABS gets a little questionable because you can throw a bad off speed and can barely nick or be a little bit down and barely nick and it's a strike. But it's like there's fastballs that you throw. Like I throw my fastball to the top of the zone, and I throw my slider a lot. So it's like that's probably the biggest difference for me because my fastball up doesn't get called as much as it used to.
Right.
There's pitches I'll throw and it's like that's in there and they call it a ball because maybe the catcher set up a little bit in or out and it doesn't go
Mhm.
exactly to where they're at. They have to move their glove. Um, so I would say, yeah, like that's for sure the biggest difference. Getting used to an umpire calling the zone and just making sure that I'm in their zone because every umpire zone is going to be different. It's not the same every week like ABS is.
Yeah.
So I would say that's the biggest difference. You're gonna get damaged more if you're not in the zone and you finally come into the zone. But that's been the thing that's happened ever since you move up from college. Like even in college, going from Long Beach to Oklahoma State, and then Oklahoma State to Dunedin, now Dunedin to Vancouver. Like every single level that you go up, the more that you miss, you're gonna get hurt more. It's gonna be
Right.
less mistakes that you can make, and it's gonna be the same thing when I go to Double A, and the same thing when I go to Triple A, and then obviously the big leagues. Like so, I would say yeah.
So I obviously arm health is, I mean, priority number one when it comes to a
Mhm.
pitcher. I know that like velocity isn't necessarily the biggest thing that people attach to your name, but irrelevant, you still got to look after your arm. What is your process like for doing that? Like, what does your pregame look like? What's your postgame? What's in between starts? I know they just had a video that's kind of going viral of Paul Skeens with the giant backpack on
Mhm.
doing his thing there.
Yeah.
What's your pre and post game look like?
It would be just stretching out by myself. And then we have these water bags, and I'll use that, just kind of feel the mound, go up and down the mound, do a couple drills with that. And then do some dry reps with just my glove and a ball in my hand and do that off the mound. And then some bands. It's pretty simple. It's not I don't do a whole bunch of stuff. And then following that, post game, days I pitch and like a bullpen, I'll do what's called PNF. I can't tell you what it stands for right now. But it's like um our trainer will like we do workouts with our arm afterwards just to like we used a lot throwing, so they're gonna, it's like a deload type of thing.
Right.
Um, so the pre is every day. I do that every single day. Same thing every single day, whether it's game, bullpen, 60 feet catch, long toss. And then post game, the PNF is the days I pitch, so game and bullpens, and then other days I'll do like trap raises, um, things like that with like arm raises, T's, Y's, I's, body blades. Um, I try not to do a whole bunch. I think my arm's in a really good spot right now and don't want to overdo it or not do
Hmm.
enough. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I've developed a good routine this year as far as like how many days a week I'm going to do it and what exactly I need to do. So
So I know it varies from pitcher to pitcher, and this is one thing that we've actually been asked on the podcast numerous times. So it's a question I do like to bring up with catchers or sorry,
uh,
pitchers. Um, how much soreness do you deal with after an outing? I know every guy has soreness, and it's a routine thing. Curious where you're at on that level, and how much attention you got to pay to just that.
yeah, yeah. I I guess like I said, we're halfway through the season now.
Yeah.
I don't get very sore anymore. Like beginning of the year, yeah, for sure, just kind of getting back into games and stuff like that. But as far as now, I don't get very sore anymore.
Yeah.
I would say that probably stopped. The getting sore probably stopped about a month and a half ago now. You get a little bit tight and
Yeah.
like your
Of course.
scap and
Of
stuff like
course.
that, but it's not like I'm hanging right now.
Yeah.
I threw a game yesterday. I feel good playing catch today, and that's it.
Spring training, you're feeling it though.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
for
Oh, you're
sure.
like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I remember after my first outing, I was pretty tight for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is there a it comes full circle? Like as you get closer to the end of the season, although I guess this is really your first year where you've put
Mhm.
this kind of innings on your arm, but where do you feel it by the end as well?
I wouldn't say so. I feel like
Yeah.
at the end, that's when I feel the greatest.
You're the loosest, yeah.
Yeah, that like my sophomore year, I pitched 73 innings at Long Beach and then went and played summer ball and pitched almost 40 innings. And I like felt amazing. I kept going. I was still pitching going into the fall of Oklahoma State. That's when I felt my best. I was probably at like 130 innings at that point. So I felt tremendous, especially it being after, geez, everybody's calling me now.
We'll wrap
Um,
up here right away.
no,
Honestly,
yeah,
Juaron,
no,
I
no
just
worries.
appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, yeah, no, but being loose and being just keeping the arm moving for that long, I feel like I felt great, and there was no issue. I don't know. It's different for other people for sure.
Yeah.
But as far as myself, I felt great.
Okay. Very curious. Who was your favorite team growing up and who was your favorite player?
Favorite team growing up was Dodgers. I'm from California and
Yeah.
grew up going to Dodgers games. Favorite player growing up, I feel like it always changed. I wasn't always just a pitcher.
Mhm.
Like my first favorite player was Matt Kemp. That was when I really started watching baseball and Matt Kemp, and then it was Yasiel Puig when he was there for a little bit, and then it was Clayton Kershaw. Even though he'd been there for a little while longer, it was Clayton Kershaw. I would say as I got started getting more into baseball and like actually watching it, I really enjoyed watching DeGrom and Max Scherzer pitch. Um, those are two guys, especially DeGrom. I wish he was just healthy still, and I wish he was like he was when he was on the Mets. Because every time he went out there, you knew he was going to give you 7, 8 innings, maybe one hit,
Yeah. I
and
love
that was probably a home run, if anything, or a little single.
I love
Yeah.
the
So
Puig call there. Like people forget how good Yasil was and how fun he was to
yeah,
watch. Yeah.
yep, yeah. He was what do you call what's the word when they're like a star for like overnight and then they kind of just
Yeah.
disappear.
Burn
It,
bright
that
and
that's
then
exact.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he was. He was. I ended up getting one of his jerseys. It was a couple years that he had for
Yeah.
sure, but then he just disappeared.
Yeah.
but he was definitely fun as hell to watch.
So what got you into baseball? Was your dad a big fan?
No. So I played baseball, football, and basketball growing up. I played all three. Even in the high school, and then my sophomore year of high school, that's when I really started like, all right, I need to either get a scholarship for football or baseball. So I started training a little bit harder with somebody that I know back from home on in baseball, and things started to pick up. I started throwing harder in about a month. I was throwing like low 80s and picked up to high 80s, and started. I got invited to a couple things and got some looks, and that's when the offers for college started rolling in, and that's when I decided to go down the baseball path because it was starting to work out. I
Hmm.
could see myself having a future in it. Other people saw me having a future in it. It wasn't like it was just little offers or I had a chance. They thought I had a chance to get drafted someday and end up in the big leagues if I started working on my craft and became more mature and things like that. So that's when it kind of took off from there. For sophomore year of high school till now. That's when my love of the game started to grow more. I just liked playing sports back then. Obviously watching it, my favorite sport to play was football. Um, but you know, the talent was in baseball, and that's where I started to pursue it.
Well, Juaron, it wound up really working out for you, my man. And
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
thank you for taking the time to join us here. Honestly, been a lot of fun talking baseball
Yeah.
with you. I'm going to twist your arm to try and bring you back here sometime down the road
Okay.
here. So watch out
Okay.
for it. But honestly,
Okay.
man, we're cheering for you. Thank you so much. And best of luck with the rest of your season.
Thank you. Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you.